All right, for more now, we can speak live to former England international Jamie Redknapp. Jamie, good to see you. I bet you're on the golf course, aren't you? Settling your nerves this morning.
Not today. No, not today. I played yesterday. I'm just going to have I've actually got a lovely day ahead. I'm going to the women's final, tennis, with my wife, and then can't wait to watch obviously our big game this evening. So I've got a nice day ahead.
OK, a day to distract you from the game then. Look, good news overnight. Declan Rice, Mark Guehi and Reece James look like they're going to be available now. I know you've been vocal about the right-back situation with England, but who would you pick tonight against Norway?
Oof, difficult one, isn't it now? Obviously, with no Quansah, but Reece James trained. I don't think he's going to be worth the risk right now, but hopefully if we go further in this competition, you're going to need his quality at some point. They're a big side. You have to remember that set pieces are going to be key today. So it might be a situation. I'm not trying to pick his team or trying to, just thinking how he might manage it. He could play Quansah right back and then Stones and Gay. Now, Stones and Gay are so used to training against Haaland every single day. Does that make it easier? Absolutely not. They still know you could wait for 1 second, like he did against Brazil, what he did with Gabriel, and he just drifted in behind him, nips in front, gets that header, and obviously then the goal at the end. So that would be certainly an option. I don't like the Declan Rice playing right back one, if I'm honest, especially when he's been struggling with injury and you're asking him to play out there. It doesn't fit right with me. He's a top midfield player. We need him in that vital midfield area. So I think he might go with Quansah at right back. He hasn't really got, Jed Spence could possibly play there as well. That's been an option, but I think keeping him on the bench and he could come on if we need cover at left back or right back. But they're the options, really, Jed Spence or Quansah at right back. Let's see what he does. It's obviously an important area, but it's not going to be the make or break for this team. When I look at the areas that we're going to be really got to capitalise, it's in midfield with Jude Bellingham, where he's been absolutely immense, and obviously Harry Kane up front.
Yeah, look, we're going to get on to Jude Bellingham, Harry Kane in particular, but I've got to mention, we spoke to your dad earlier this morning, and he's back in England, not just to win tonight. He thinks they've got what it takes to go all the way. Do you share his confidence?
Yeah, of course, I do. I think we've got an incredible chance. I think that Mexico game has given us that belief, and it feels like we've really arrived at this competition now. It's going to be hard. This is no doubt at all a tougher game than Brazil. When I watched Brazil all tournament, it looked like a tribute act to the great Brazil sides we've seen. So I felt we'd have had too much for them. They had no pace in the team. Whereas when I watch this Norway side, I see a real togetherness, which is obviously so important to win any competition. If you go through the history, it's always a team that you feel like, with Argentina, with Messi, and how everyone got behind him. Now, they've got their talisman in Haaland, but they've got the likes of Odegaard, they've got Sander Berg, they've got Ayer at the back, they've got a real Premier League look about them, but they've got like Sheldalup that come off the bench and made the goal the other day for Haaland. They've got some really good players there. And Norway have invested a lot in their football over the last 10 years to get to this point. And it just shows you from getting the kids playing at the right level at grassroots, and you can produce the players to play at the World Cup. But they've got some real gems as well. I think it'd be remiss of us to go, oh, this is going to be an easy game. This might go to extra time. It might even go to penalties. It's a really difficult one, and a much more difficult game than I think what Brazil would have been. Brazil have obviously got the beautiful colours and the players, and they've got that flair. But this is a side that's really together. So I've got under no illusions tonight will be really difficult. But have we got the ability to beat them? Absolutely, we have.
And look, Harry Kane, no doubt, is going to be crucial tonight. It's been crucial for England for a long, long time. He's going to be joining Wayne Rooney now as the second most capped England's men's player tonight. We've actually been asking our audience this morning whether he's the greatest ever player for England. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, arguably, I think I didn't see enough of Bobby Charlton, but when I speak to my dad and when we talk to my granddad about him and players that played a bit more of a generation before us, everyone just talks about how good he was. You only got to look at, 66 when some of the goals, when that big heavy ball, when he's dropping his shoulder, going past people and hitting from 30 yards in the top corner. So I think there'd be an argument for him. And I always find it difficult to judge generations, like saying, is Messi better than Maradona? Would Messi have been able to cope with what Maradona had to do from the tackling and everything, and how the referees didn't give you any protection in those days? But Kane is definitely, I think, the best of this generation. I think if you're talking four elite players that we've had, you'd have to say Kane, you'd have to say Paul Gascoigne, you'd have to obviously say Bobby Charlton. Wayne Rooney, they would be the four that I would pick. You know, they're incredible players, obviously all so different, but Harry's just been incredible. I mean, what a player, what a personality off the pitch, great role model for so many people. And I think the players obviously hold him in such high regard. So arguably, yes, our best ever. And it's certainly a great debate, and he is well in the conversation.
I was going to say, Jay, we feel like we've seen so much more of Harry Kane in this tournament off the field, and that post-match interview after Mexico where his voice completely went was brilliant and actually showed so much more about his personality around the side as well. Look, no surprising, the headlines building up into this one, the two strikers, Kane versus Haaland. That's what the media kind of pushing on it. I know it's more than that, but if you had the choice of Kane or Haaland, who would you go for?
Tonight, I'd go for Harry Kane. And the reason why I say that is Harry Kane can drop into a position of a number 8 and hit a through ball to somebody and set him from 25, 30 yards and put it onto, like a Kevin De Bruyne pass. Only a few players that you can possess that. Finishing, elite, headers, finishing from tight areas, penalties. That's not to say that Haaland isn't incredible. Now, Haaland is, he transcends that Norway side, if you like. But I would say right now, obviously there's that debate of who would you sign if you had the offer of the two. Well, you'd obviously go with Haaland because he's much younger and you're going to go and get another 7-8 years out of him. But right now, as it stands, I just think for an all-round player, I would take Harry Kane. And that's not just because I'm English. I just genuinely believe that he's got that X factor in all the different areas, because it wouldn't be surprised tonight if he doesn't score. He's the one that's setting the ball like he did for Jude Bellingham the other day. He's a fantastic, not just goal scorer, but just an accomplished footballer in itself.
Jamie, look, on Haaland specifically, no doubt that will be a focus for Thomas Tuchel and the coaching team. How do they stop him? A player his international record is simply ridiculous at the moment. It's had a great tournament. But how do England stop him? Is it more of having that direct focus on him, or is it more of stopping the supply to him?
I think the second really is as important. You've got to stop the supply. I think if you looked at that first goal that he scored, the header, it's a perfect example, because Gabriel in that situation would normally be probably the one that you would choose to mark Haaland. He feels like he's got him, and he's in a nice position. Haaland just gets into the blind spot and then just nips in front of him, gets up above him, and then all of a sudden the rest is history. You're 1-0 down. And I think that's why it's so, you can't always stop him. But can you block crosses? Can you make sure you stop that ball getting into his feet? Because if he gets it in tight areas, I'm not so worried about him. It's when the wide man, when Sheldon picked that ball up and he crossed it into Haaland, that's when you've got to be really careful. And you've got to make sure, if it's Jez Spence, if it's Konsa, it's Nico O'Reilly, stopping the cross, block the cross, get out to the winger as soon as you can. Don't give Odegaard too much time and space. Don't leave too much space in behind you, because that's the last thing that John Stones is going to want, running back to his own goal. So stopping the supply, I think, is as important as stopping him. But he is a world-class player, and you could just see he's loved this World Cup. He's loved the focus being on him. He's playing with a real smile on his face, and it's a togetherness about that Norway side. Even at the end of the game, the rowing, everyone's bought into it. They're a real, they're a band of brothers, and you can see it. They don't want to go home yet. So that's why I think we've got to be ready for this game. It's going to be really interesting. It's going to be hard work. It's going to be maybe the fine margins, but you won't be surprised if at the end of it we're talking about Haaland or Kane being the match winner.
There's another match winner who certainly stepped up this tournament for England again, and that's Jude Bellingham. How impressed have you been with his performances? There seem to be, I still cannot believe I'm saying this, Jamie, but before the tournament there was doubts from some people about Jude Bellingham and about his impact in the squad, but he's put that to bed completely, hasn't he? There's no doubt surely about him and his levels of performance.
Yeah, ridiculous. I think there's a lot of people going, oh, my goodness, how wrong did I get that? Because there was never, for me, a doubt. I think I said on Sky Sports, I think he'll be one of the stars of the competition, and how people couldn't see that. This is an elite player with an elite mentality, and sometimes that scares people because of the way he is, the drive, the energy to win football matches and take a game by the scruff of the neck. That's what he does. And it's a bit like the game against Mexico. Now, I was talking the other day, and I feel, obviously, midfielders, we obviously I love to see good midfielders making an impact. And the last time I saw a midfielder have this kind of impact for England was in Italia 90, Paul Gascoigne, when he was doing things that were just out of this world. I can't remember how old I was, before I was even a Premier League player. And I just thought to myself, this is what's making me fall in love with the game. Watching Gazza run past people. Rijkaard was trying to mark him man for man in the game against the Dutch that evening. Couldn't get near him. And this is a level of what I'm seeing with Jude right now. This is the best I've seen since then. He's adding goals and skills. The bit of play against Mexico when he's got 3 men round him. He brings it down, little Cruyff through his legs, drives away from 2 or 3 people. He's been incredible and adding goals and assists to his game. So, yeah, real star. And I didn't see anything else, to be honest, apart from that. This is he's a world-class player, and I'm so pleased that he's showing it. You know, this is the guy that's won the Champions League at Real Madrid, at Dortmund as well, and he'll be playing against his old mate Haaland. But he will love this today. He loves the big occasion. It's going to be extremely hot. I think, I've not looked at the temperatures in Miami, but it's going to be a really hot game, so you're going to have to really keep your energy levels, at the right part, and obviously then making substitutions, who you bring into the game at the right time. That's going to have a real part to play as well.
Look, one thing with Bellingham he's got to watch out for tonight is that yellow card that should he get booked tonight, he will miss the semi-final. That's the same with, I think, Declan Rice, Nico O'Reilly, Mark Guehi as well. Have England got to think about this? Has Jude Bellingham got to take that into the game, or are we taking away an element of his game if we're saying, look, just watch out for that second yellow card?
Yeah, I think it's a good point. You've got to be mindful. One thing you don't do is get, obviously, kicking the ball away from a free kick or trying to stop them play quickly. You've almost got to take yourself away from that situation. If there's a tackle that has to be made and someone's breaking on the team and you feel it might be 2-3 minutes to go and you've got to make that tackle, a bit like Roy Keane back in Turin all those years ago when against Juventus, he knew he had to take that tackle for the team and not missing the final. But you can't start thinking, how can I do it? What's the best way to manage this game? Because we take away a huge amount of what Jude Bellingham is. He's a warrior. He wants to make challenges. He's an all-round sort of Roy Keane, Paul Gascoigne type of player. Brian Robson, all those midfield players that we like. He's like a throwback. So if we start saying, Jude, actually don't tackle today, we're losing a lot. We're losing a lot of what he brings. So I don't even expect that'll be in his mind. Just don't get a silly yellow card. That's what I would say. Just make sure you play your game, but just to make sure that you're extremely careful when you can be.
Jamie, what have you made of Thomas Tuchel in this tournament? A lot of attention on Gareth Southgate, what he did previously, did a great job getting to European finals and World Cup semi-final, quarter-final, perhaps criticised for his in-game management at times. But what have you made of what Tuchel's done before games and during the games for England in this tournament?
Yeah, he's done well. I think, obviously the right-back situation made a mess of. I think he'll probably, after the World Cup, say that, I got that one wrong. And obviously then you pick up injuries, which are a little bit unforeseen, but you need to be aware of that when Livramento got injured. But if we win this competition or, even get to the final, I think we'll all be forgiven. I think we're in a great spot. We're in it. If you were to look at the sides that are the biggest danger, obviously, you would have to say France. Spain haven't hit the heights, although it was obviously a huge win from yesterday, another late Marino goal. But I would say, Argentina if they can get through as well. But I think the toughest opponent will be if we get to the final and we meet France. And I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves because, as I said, this is going to be an extremely hard game this evening. But France would be the best team, and I felt we were one of the better teams in this competition. And in a one-off game with the players that we've got, with the world-class players, with Kane and Bellingham, we could beat anybody. And the way that he's managed that situation, I think he's been pretty good so far. But this is a tougher test than Mexico. A lot of people spoke about the altitude in Mexico, but the heat wasn't there, which is obviously a really big thing for us. This will be a bigger test, and then obviously whoever wins in the Argentina other quarter-final and you have to play against Messi, if we can navigate that in the semi-final, then great. So let's see how we get on. But so far, I think it's been pretty good. I think we'll be happy with this, but time will tell. But I'd say I've got no complaints because we're still in the competition, because there's a lot of good countries, the likes of the Germans, that are sitting home. They've already had to change their manager. So we're in a good spot. I'm happy where we are. That we're not too high, not too low. It hasn't been incredible yet, but I think if we win tonight, then I think all of a sudden we can start to get really confident and get that real belief. And everywhere you walk, everywhere you go, it's lifted everyone. The whole nation's enjoying this campaign so far.
I could see when you said if we win tonight, you just kind of, your energy levels went up. You could feel what could be coming, Jamie. Look, before I let you go to enjoy the strawberries and cream at Wimbledon, can I just ask you about the news coming out from one of your former clubs yesterday, Liverpool, that Michael Edwards is stepping down from a CEO of Fenway Sports Group. What do you make of that? And does that put a bit of pressure on new manager Andoni Iraola in terms of getting transfers in now? Because it sounds strange talking about it while the World Cup's going on, but the season's going to come around pretty fast, isn't it?
Yeah, I must admit, it did catch me by surprise, that one. I think he's obviously done a great job. I think originally he was obviously at Portsmouth, and where he was involved in all the statistics of the game, and then obviously the data element. He's almost been a pioneer of that. So it does surprise me, especially when Andoni had a relationship with him at Bournemouth. I think they were together at some point. Obviously, Richard Hughes was. So, yeah, I think Andoni would have been probably a little bit disappointed, but he might have also known that. We don't know. There might have been some dialogue said, I'm going to get you in, but I'm going to just make sure you get settled. We'll try and get you some players that you need, and then fingers crossed, you can get Liverpool back to obviously competing for the title next year. Now, it isn't great, but if you're the manager, you're still thinking to yourself, this is Liverpool. This is one of the biggest clubs in the world. There's no doubt they will try and find another elite, director of football or sporting director, whatever term you want to call it, and make sure that he gets all the help he needs, because they will make sure you get all the right players. And they obviously do a lot of their players on data, which is important. It's been obviously very beneficial to Liverpool in the past. But there's also some that haven't been data. Virgil van Dijk wasn't data. He was just a great player that you had to pay big money for, that all of a sudden gives you what you need, and you end up winning titles off the back of it. So Andoni will probably be a little bit disappointed, but at the same time thinking, it's on me anyway. I've got to manage this team. I've got to live up to the expectations of the likes of, obviously, what Arne Slot winning the title. So there's so many great managers that have been there in the past, and he'll get all the support he needs from the fans. Everyone will get right behind him, and the players, and it's important that he gets that. But I'm sure they'll find someone that's at that elite level. But it certainly won't be easy, and he will be a big miss.
Jamie, I appreciate your time this morning. Have a great day at Wimbledon, and enjoy the football later.